who has identified himself as a longtime Democratic staffer. This is not a Republican operative, a Democratic staffer who was working in Democratic offices at the time of the alleged leaking in 16-17. This staffer was interviewed by FBI agents on several occasions and told those agents that then Congressman Adam Schiff was the one who approved the leaks to the...
The carefully polished myth of a fearless truth-teller begins to crack when Megyn Kelly turns her sights on Adam Schiff. With sharp precision, she unmasks him not as a champion of accountability, but as the unrivaled maestro of political theater. The bombshell revelations he once promised never materialized. Instead, his career unfolded like a stage play filled with dramatic pauses, exaggerated outrage, and accusations that echoed but rarely landed. Kelly methodically strips away his cultivated persona, showing an image less of statesmanship and more of performance, an endless pursuit of cameras, sound bites, and the fleeting applause within Washington's hollow echo chamber.
A staff member began talking to the FBI in 2017 because he said he considered the leaks to be, quote, unethical, illegal, and treasonous. This is a Democrat staffer who is saying to the FBI he had a holy shit moment when he heard Adam Schiff give the order. These documents that outline the FBI's interview, the FBI doesn't tape its interviews. They go back and they report what they heard.
Adam Schiff has spent years styling himself as Washington's tireless sleuth, the political world's self-anointed detective who claims to sniff out scandal at every turn. But instead of uncovering truths, his stage is littered with manufactured conspiracies, lofty promises that collapse under scrutiny, and grand declarations masquerading as evidence. Every hunch is delivered as though it were a revelation, every gesture framed like a courtroom drama. Enter Megyn Kelly, who doesn't merely challenge him, but peels back the facade piece by piece. She reveals a figure less concerned with justice and more obsessed with the performance. Schiff, the consummate showman of politics, booming with drama, yet hollow once the spotlight fades.
Shock the world right now and defend Adam Schiff. In response to the heat he's getting for the following clip.
It is an existential threat, Senator, and also
asleep.
I have not seen it yet, but from what I've heard about former FBI Director Ray,
someone in the audience behind
comments on 60
Pam
Minutes regarding China
is videotaping Adam Schiff asleep.
In our own country, infiltrating our water systems, our natural gas lines.
I defend Adam Schiff because these cover...
Megyn Kelly highlights how Adam Schiff mastered the art of performance, the carefully furrowed brow, the widened eyes, the hushed, weighty tone, each gesture calculated to convince viewers he was unveiling something earth-shattering. He spoke as though he held secrets that could rewrite history, promising Americans evidence so explosive it would shake the foundations of power. He dangled hints of blockbuster revelations, carrying himself like a man safeguarding the political equivalent of nuclear codes. But when the curtain finally lifted, there was nothing, just recycled rumors and hollow claims. Time after time, Schiff's theatrics felt less like Sherlock Holmes uncovering truth and more like Scooby-Doo without the unmasking, where suspense built endlessly, only to vanish into smoke.
I believe he's going to weaponize the DOJ to use it against his opponents. I believe that's what was done to him. Though, as we discussed with Alan Dershowitz in that now famous clip that went around where I said we need Steve Bannon, I'm not totally opposed to it. I'm going to be honest. Who would cry a tear if Adam Schiff actually got some sort of hassle thrown his way by the DOJ?
Adam Schiff doesn't trade in truth, he traffics in innuendo. His craft isn't in exposing corruption, but in spinning narratives just long enough to keep the spotlight fixed on him. Megyn Kelly drives this point home with razor clarity. If Schiff truly possessed evidence even half as earth-shattering as he claimed, it wouldn't still be locked away in shadows, it would have surfaced long ago. Instead, he dragged hearings into marathons, drip-fed sound bites to eager networks, and carefully cast himself as the central hero in a drama that never actually existed. He's not the vigilant watchdog he pretends to be, but the hype man of Washington's conspiracy theater, thriving on suspense without substance.
Stated the group would leak classified information which was derogatory to the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Schiff stated the information would be used to indict President Trump. The whistleblower stated this would be illegal. And upon hearing his concerns, unnamed members of the meeting reassured that they would not be caught leaking classified information.
What makes Adam Schiff such an irresistible target isn't just the mistakes, it's the sheer confidence with which he doubles down after being exposed. Most politicians, when caught red-handed, scramble for damage control or at least attempt a hasty backpedal. Schiff, by contrast, operates as if the audience is too distracted or too naive to notice the cracks. Megyn Kelly skewers this arrogance with precision, pointing out how Schiff could stare directly into cameras, repeat claims that fizzled into nothing, and then pivot as though the true scandal was anyone daring to question him. It's political gaslighting at its boldest, the kind of slick denial you'd expect from a shady salesman trying to pitch a rusted lemon as a luxury ride. Schiff didn't just stretch the truth, he weaponized it, treating reality itself as nothing more than a stage prop for his performance.
Hadn't pardoned Adam Schiff at the
Right.
end of his term. But
Right.
unlike the one he gave to Hunter, it was
Right.
a limited pardon.
It was.
And it only spoke to J6 and his work on the
Right.
January 6th Select Committee. So it would not immunize him from any of the claims you and I are discussing right now, right?
Megyn Kelly zeroes in on the hypocrisy Adam Schiff wears like a badge of honor. Here is a man who postures as a crusader against corruption, yet had no hesitation bending rules, gaming the system, and manipulating the narrative whenever it served his ambitions. His playbook was simple: leak selective information to friendly reporters, dress up flimsy intelligence claims as if they were ironclad, and deliver theatrical monologues in congressional hearings designed less for truth and more for primetime clips. Schiff didn't treat the House floor as a chamber of democracy. It was his personal audition stage, where every dramatic pause and carefully rehearsed soundbite was aimed at the evening news cycle. And this is where Kelly's takedown cuts the deepest. Schiff's addiction to attention wasn't just embarrassing, it was corrosive. While he basked in the glow of headlines and cable news applause, Congress was dragged into endless partisan spectacles that devoured years of legislative energy. He cast himself as the savior of democracy, but in reality, he became the ringmaster of a circus that distracted from genuine governance. Kelly underscores the hollowness of Schiff's record. Despite decades in office, ask his constituents to list his tangible accomplishments, and you'll be met with silence. Beyond the endless investigations and the grandstanding speeches, his true legacy is the perfection of outrage theater, politics as performance, headlines as the goal, and results left abandoned in the wings.
So walk us through what the 302 reports that the FBI wrote up after their interviews with this whistleblower say.
Yeah, so let's give you a sense of who this person is. We don't know their name because the name is redacted, but we know their career. They're a career intelligence officer. So they started in the executive branch as an intelligence officer, and then they get detailed to the Democratic side of the House Intelligence Committee. Eventually, this person inherits as his boss, Adam Schiff, when Adam Schiff takes over as the Democrat minority ranking member on House Intelligence in 2016. And they're working for Adam Schiff. And somewhere in the beginning of the Russia collusion, false narrative building in America, he attends a meeting where Adam Schiff says,
The so-called pinnacle of Adam Schiff's career, the moment he seemed to believe would etch his name into history, was the impeachment spectacle. And spectacle is the right word, because Schiff didn't treat it like a solemn duty. He treated it like theater. Every hearing became a stage, every monologue a performance. He leaned into the microphone with that sanctimonious tone, projecting the gravitas of a Shakespearean actor, but in reality, it played more like a community theater audition held in a dimly lit high school gym. Megyn Kelly skewers the act for exactly what it was: scripted outrage. Schiff wasn't there to deliver truth. He was there to cast himself as the heroic face of resistance. Yet, as with every production he headlined, the finale was flat. No revelations. No historic turning point. Just months of America's time swallowed by grandstanding that fizzled into nothing. And Kelly highlights the sleight of hand that made it all possible. Schiff rarely tells outright lies. His genius lies in manipulation. Like a magician conjuring smoke to distract the crowd, he hides behind vague phrasing. He never declares, "I have proof." Instead, he whispers, the evidence suggests, we've seen signs, there are reasons to believe. Phrases that sound weighty in the moment, but collapse under scrutiny. It's political illusion enough to stir outrage, never enough to demand accountability. Schiff perfected that trick, but Kelly strips away the smoke to reveal it for what it truly is, a lazy con dressed as statesmanship.
At least according to the legal experts I've talked to, he's only immunized for what he did related from January 6 forward of 2021. So these things occurred in 17 and 18. You've got the mortgage issue, which is also based on our reporting, a story we broke last October on the counting two houses as his primary residence to get better mortgage deals. Those would fall outside of the pardon according to the legal experts who've looked at it. And I suspect if those get to the case of criminality at some point, that there may be some legal challenges trying to test that pardon's.
And then there's Adam Schiff's all-consuming obsession with Donald Trump, an obsession Megyn Kelly slices apart like a chef carving into a stubborn steak. Schiff didn't just criticize Trump, he built his entire identity around being the man who would finally bring him down. Night after night, he appeared on television with that same grave expression, promising viewers that Trump's downfall was imminent, that accountability was just one more hearing away. But years rolled on and the story never changed. Trump remained, still dominating headlines and still in power, while Schiff recycled the same tired lines, each promise emptier than the last. It wasn't just ironic, it was humiliating. Schiff's legacy became inseparably bound to the very man he swore he would destroy. History will remember him not as the fearless truth-teller he portrayed, but as the politician who barked loudly for years yet never managed to bite. Kelly also highlights how Schiff shamelessly cashed in on the drama. Every dire warning, every theatrical press conference, every ominous hint about threats to democracy seemed perfectly timed with a fundraising email. Fear became his product, and paranoia his business model. He didn't just exploit anxiety, he monetized it, turning politics into a subscription service where loyal supporters paid to keep his soap opera alive.
Didn't we just have a whole criminal investigation of Donald Trump for having documents at Mar-a-Lago that might have classified information in them, and we just can't have that. We can't have classified information running around out there in the hands of people who aren't authorized. Meanwhile, this is the former president of the United States who can declassify everything. We were told that for 2 years straight, the past 2 years by Democrats. And now what you're saying is that one of the most vocal about that, Adam Schiff, had been at the helm of releasing classified information.
Schiff's defenders like to insist he's simply doing his job, that his endless theatrics are nothing more than standing up for democracy. But Megyn Kelly wastes no time calling that defense what it truly is: nonsense. Defending democracy doesn't mean dragging the nation through one political show trial after another, each hyped as history-making, only to collapse into nothing. It doesn't mean turning congressional hearings into vanity projects where the spotlight matters more than substance. And it certainly doesn't mean crying wolf so many times that when a genuine threat emerges, the public greets it with exhaustion and rolled eyes. Kelly also zeroes in on Schiff's habit of projection. He warns about the dangers of misinformation while pushing storylines that evaporate under scrutiny. He paints himself as a guardian of truth, yet leaves behind a trail littered with half-truths, exaggerations, and outright fabrications. Schiff doesn't just bend the rules, he contorts them until they're almost unrecognizable. And he does it all with that same smug, self-righteous expression, as if daring the world to finally call his bluff.
While this is only the unverified allegation of a single former staffer, the alleged conduct would involve criminal and unethical conduct of the highest order, if proven. Your reaction to this news?
Well, it's in keeping with my opinion of Adam Schiff. I've been calling him McCarthyite ever since he started in on Trump. And as John pointed out, McCarthy at least there had some communists in the government that he was talking about, although he was irresponsible. Adam Schiff repeatedly came out and said, I have seen documents that indict, that link Trump to Russia, but I can't reveal them to you now, but just you wait, I'm going to reveal them. And of course, we know they weren't there. We know there was nothing there. Now we have this information from the whistleblower, my favorite part of which is when the whistleblower says he objected to the illegality.
At the heart of Megyn Kelly's takedown lies a brutal reality. Adam Schiff is a fraud, not in the criminal sense, but in the professional one. He built his brand on the promise of being a warrior for truth, a fearless defender of democracy. Yet what he actually delivered was theater, cheap, hollow, endlessly recycled theater. Serious matters that demanded clarity and integrity were repackaged into punchlines, dramatic sound bites, and headlines designed to keep him center stage. He made bold promises of bombshell revelations, only to watch them fizzle into smoke. And in the process, he left the public more divided, more cynical, and far more exhausted. Schiff didn't strengthen democracy, he cheapened it. He transformed it into a form of reality television, where outrage was the script, and he was always the star. And perhaps the most damning detail? He still doesn't get it. Even after years of failed predictions and theatrical flops, Schiff struts onto television sets with that same misplaced confidence, as if history itself hasn't already passed judgment. History remembers. It remembers Adam Schiff as the man who cried collusion, the politician who turned hearings into a Broadway audition, the leader who mistook political theater for statesmanship. Kelly doesn't just roast him, she dismantles him, piece by piece, revealing not a watchdog of democracy, but a salesman of fear. Not a truth-teller, but a truth-bender. Not a hero, but a cautionary tale of what happens when politicians chase cameras instead of results.
The whistleblower was reportedly very specific on the details. Like, it doesn't sound like a lie, because this person had a lot of details when speaking to the FBI. Quote, when working in this capacity, this whistleblower was called to an all-staff meeting by Schiff. In this meeting, Schiff stated the group would leak classified information, which was derogatory.
And when the curtain finally drops, Adam Schiff won't be remembered as the noble defender of the Constitution he imagined himself to be. He'll be remembered as the politician who promised America a smoking gun, but delivered nothing more than smoke and mirrors. The brutality of Megyn Kelly's dismantling lies in the contrast she draws between Schiff's carefully crafted self-image and the reality of his actions. He wanted to go down in history as democracy's principal guardian, the lone sentinel who saw dangers others ignored. Instead, his name is etched into the ledger as the face of political theater gone terribly wrong, a living warning of what happens when ambition sprints far ahead of credibility. Schiff didn't safeguard institutions. He weakened them by recasting them as partisan props, backdrops for his performances. That stain, Kelly notes, is indelible. She twists the knife further by highlighting Schiff's obsession with television cameras, clinging to them as though they were lifeboats on a sinking ship. While most lawmakers used media to spotlight policy, Schiff used it to feed his own ego, recycling the same hollow lines again and again until the very repetition became his shield. To him, airtime was currency, but each appearance only magnified the cracks in his story. And Kelly delights in pointing out the inevitable truth. Eventually, America saw through the act.
Whistleblower interview transcripts from the FBI. They're not exactly transcripts, they're FBI write-ups of the interviews that they conducted with a whistleblower who's a self-described Democrat working for the Democrats on the House Intelligence Committee, who worked for them, by the way, for 10 years, who says that he was there in 2017 when he heard Adam Schiff say, we are going to leak classified documents and intel to the media with the hopes of getting Donald.
And then comes the hypocrisy, the thread that runs through Adam Schiff's career like the spine of a bad novel. This is the man who built his entire reputation condemning others for dishonesty, wagging his finger with the righteous indignation of a self-appointed guardian of truth. Yet his own persona rested not on honesty, but on exaggeration, selective leaks, and carefully curated narratives designed to mislead. Megyn Kelly paints him vividly as the politician who pointed one finger outward while three pointed squarely back at himself. Schiff wasn't the fearless truth-teller he pretended to be, he was a salesman. And like any salesman, once the product failed, he had nothing left to pitch. His credibility today, Kelly argues, is worth about as much as an old Blockbuster membership card, nostalgic maybe, but utterly useless. The real devastation lands when Kelly exposes the gaping disconnect between Schiff's self-inflated image and the meager reality of his actual impact. He longed to be remembered as the statesman who defended democracy against its greatest threats. Instead, his actions chipped away at public trust, deepened political divides, and left Americans more cynical about government than ever. Kelly reframes him not as a watchdog of truth, but as a cautionary tale, a man who proved that even those who claim to police corruption can be just as hungry for attention and relevance as the very politicians they criticize. Once stripped of the illusion, Schiff's crusader persona collapses. He doesn't resemble a hero or a reformer. He looks like just another opportunist. Kelly doesn't merely roast him, she buries him beneath the weight of his own record. Schiff craved the legacy of a respected statesman, but what lingers is closer to an internet parody. Not the architect of policy, not the defender of democracy, just a meme. A punchline. The politician who built a career on dramatic declarations that withered under scrutiny. Kelly drags every fracture of that